Have you seen this, in Sean, I don't know if change is the right word, but have you seen it affect of being named a starter?
Yeah, I've liked the way he's carried himself. There's just a natural sense of confidence that comes with that when you know that you're the guy and you can kind of have just that release to go ahead and prepare that way. And he's done a nice job, and really all those guys have done a good job this week with their level of focus and attention to detail. So we just got to carry it over to the field.
Rhett, obviously the wide receiver depth chart, a lot of faces that have played none or very little. How has that been in terms of getting those guys ready for a game?
It's been a lot of fun. We don't have one guy starting at a position he played last year at the wide receiver position, and that's not all bad. We've got a lot of young guys that are in the two deep, and they've earned that right, but at the same time they got to go on the field and prove it when they get their opportunities. And then we've got the mix of veteran guys, but some of those guys are playing either multiple spots or different spots. So, but the last 2 weeks we've kind of been able to hone in. They've all been healthy the last 2 weeks. We've kind of been able to settle in on a position, and so we've been trying to just get as many reps in the specific spots as we could.
Rhett, how's Kyle Davis coming along?
He's doing well. I think I've been pleased after the first day or two back. I think his conditioning's really improved, which was kind of the number one concern. Haven't really seen any side effects to the injury, and so he's coming along nicely, doing some good things.
How has Will Hastings gone from a guy who wasn't kicking in the spring to a guy who's on the 2 deep at wide receiver?
Yeah. Well, I think the good thing about Will, he comes from a great program. Kevin Kelly and those guys at Pulaski Academy do a great job throwing the football. He had over 120 catches, led the state in receiving in high school, put up some ridiculous numbers, actually. And then he's, in the spring and even last fall, he didn't just kick. He played receiver for us as well. So you look at a guy who's, kind of a year and a half into the offensive side of things, so he knows it a little better than a guy who just came over. And but at the end of the day, when we say that we're going to go out there and compete and let guys have opportunity, it doesn't matter who you are and where you've been on the depth chart. The best guys are going to play, and obviously he hadn't done anything in a game yet, but he's earned the right to have some opportunities.
So he will play Saturday.
He's in the 2 deep, so there's a good chance.
Rhett, what do you expect out of Robert on Saturday? He mentioned, hey, he's had starting experience before, but he's just so much different going into a season knowing, hey, this is my spot, this is my time.
Robert, he's a great story. He's one of those guys that stayed the course, been here for a long time, had a different role probably every year. And he's probably a good story or lesson for those guys that maybe a year or two in to get into a major university. They're maybe not starting right away like they want to. He hung tough. He really helped us last year, whether it be the role playing some tight end or when we had some injuries, especially late in the year, and did a nice job. He's been a really, really good run blocker for us. And he's a guy that's smart, and you can trust him. He's playing on a different side, but he played there some last year when we needed him to. So it's just a good story. I'm glad he's here with us. Glad we got him, and I hope he plays to the best of his ability. I expect him to.
Rhett, how practice has been this week overall? Are they tired of practice and ready to go?
Well, they're tired of practicing. There's no question. But the focus has been very good, which you expect it to be coming up on your first game as you get closer to game time. And they know it, so they're locked in. It hadn't been perfect, but it's the focus and the urgency's been good. But we got to go out and play. One thing to do it in practice, another thing to do it in the game.
Rhett, I think one of the surprises might have been on the 2 deep might have been Prince Tega. Can he help you this year?
Just from a depth situation, we're having to bring guys along as quickly as we can. There's some guys in that starting 5 or below that could play multiple spots if we had to mix and match, depending on what happens. But he's kind of one of those guys we're having to try to accelerate his timetable. We think he's got a lot of potential to be a really good player in time. He's done some really good things, but also he's still learning the game a little bit, especially on our side of the ball. So we'll just have to see. I hope if we get to him, it'll be at a time when he's ready, but also hope the guys in front of him can stay healthy.
Coach Garner said that when he had him in his room, he was kind of like a sponge playing defense because he hadn't played football for that long in his life, quite frankly. So is it the same way at offensive tackle?
Yeah, everything's brand new to him,
right.
Which, on the one hand, you're like, he's played football just a handful of years, and now he's just now starting to play some offense. But I think that's a good, probably a good analogy by Coach G that everything you do tell him, he soaks it up like it's obviously the first time he's heard it, and you can really see him apply the coaching. And so from that standpoint, that's what you see a lot of high upside in him is that you correct him, and it's very important to him. He's very coachable. He's a very serious guy, and he seems to take the coaching very well.
Rhett, the importance of having Herb Hand upstairs for you and Gus,
Yeah.
how big is that for you?
I think it'll be huge. You know, it's something he's done before. He's been in both places. It's unusual probably for an O-line coach to be up there, but he's very comfortable doing it. Herb's a really good football mind. He thinks the game like we do. He's good with situational stuff. And so, it's kind of one of those, the way we run our offense, you like to be on the field in terms of feeling the game and calling the game. And then I know for me, I like to be down there with the quarterbacks and really the whole offense to be able to look them in the eye, feel momentum, all those kind of things. And so to have someone up there that, knows the offense very well and knows the game plan, that's going to be big for us.
How did Darius end up beating out Tony for that starting spot?
I'd say probably just, you earn it in practice. And now, when you're in the two deep, that means you're in the rotation to play. And, I'd expect both those guys to play. But I'd just say, we go off of what these guys did in fall camp.
Does some of that position, not to simplify the X too much, but it's a more of a vertical route concept in this offense at times. We've seen Tony go, seen Sammy be a very good deep threat. Is part of it a bit easier compared to another receiver position and learning it for Darius and Burks?
I don't think so. Now, those guys aren't playing the, quote, X anyways. No, I wouldn't say that it's easier or harder. That didn't play into it. It played into just kind of knowing our system, trying to learn our guys. We put those guys in positions we think we can get the right guys on the field. And again, Tony's done some good things, but at the end of the day, who's the most consistent in practice? That's who's going to go out there first. And then it'll be dictated from who can make the plays and be consistent in the game going forward.
How much did that injury hurt Tony in that regard? Obviously, he was out for some practices.
Well, we don't punish guys for getting hurt. And a guy like Tony, he's been here so long, he knows. And again, you're going to see plenty of Tony, plenty of Darius. But, again, I just think that Darius earned that opportunity. Coach Burns felt good that he'd earned the right to go out there first.
Do you feel good about your plans at quarterback beyond Sean and what you could possibly do?
Yeah, I do. All three of those guys got to be ready to play. They've handled themselves well. And I feel good about where they are in terms of preparation, their readiness to play, their just kind of their urgency to get out there and get a shot at it. And so it's just going to, again, I'm going to say it till we play. It just is a matter of going out there and doing it.
You look at the depth chart, especially at receiver, you see a lot of maybe some smaller guys, speedy guys. A lot of people might say that looks very similar to maybe like 2011 or 2009 in the way you guys operated the offense. Is that kind of maybe a fair assessment? You guys are kind of going back to the attacking the edge and everything?
I think we got a good mixture. I guess what you're probably getting to is, I guess, technically on the depth chart, it's got Marcus and Ryan starting. You look at Marcus, he's our most veteran guy. He's got the most experience. He's done it the most in a game. And so from a trust standpoint, I think that's where he is with us. Ryan, having played a little bit last year, he had a good spring. He's earned the right to get out there first. But Darius is a good-sized guy, and then all the guys behind him have a lot of size. And, again, it's kind of like we are just at a lot of the positions. All those guys are going to get their opportunity. It may be take the hot hand at times, early on until we kind of see who can be the most consistent. We obviously want to attack the whole field vertically, but definitely on the perimeter. We feel like those guys can do that, but at the same time, the bigger guys are pretty quick and athletic too. So,
How many drops did Will Hastings have in practice this recently?
when
How many drop passes have Will Hastings had this year?
this fall camp, I couldn't tell you. I have to ask Coach Burns. He's got the drop chart. Why? You kind of ask that question like you have the answer.
I'm just wondering if it's not a lot.
If it was a whole lot, we wouldn't put him out there. So, the kind of job description, number one at wideouts, catch the ball. So, he's obviously shown enough to be in the mix. I couldn't give you the exact. He has dropped a ball, though. That has happened.
But I know this is the second time we'll talk to you here in a few days.
Hmm?
And I said, I know this is the second time we'll talk to you in a few days. And I'm going to ask
You don't sound real excited about it either.
It's just, it's different. But what I was
Getting a little bored with it. I understand.
I'm still asking a question, though, so let me get to it. When you actually just look at the film, then what is the first thing that really jumps out? Just when you're kind of scouting.
Very aggressive attacking style defense. That's Coach Venables. You can tell it's his personality. His personality carries over his defense, and good teams, whether it be offenses or defenses, they carry the personality of their coaches. And like I said the other day, they force a lot of negative plays, whether it be sacks, turnovers. They're a very disruptive bunch from their front, from the way they pressure, from the way they cover. I mean, they're in your face. They're not scared to get up and press. They're not scared to bring the safeties down tight. They're going to be aggressive and force the issue. And so that you just knowing that's their style, you know they're going to have a lot of confidence.
Just philosophically and unrelated to this week, Rhett, but why is P and 10 so heavily analyzed and so important from both
Just
offensively, defensively?
on a broad spectrum.
Yeah, broad.
Well, it's kind of like everything else. Let's take a big boulder and start rolling it down a hill, right? Well, if it's got to start by going uphill, it's going to be hard to get a lot of momentum. And so for an offense, if we can start getting some momentum, it's harder to stop us. And so for us being a tempo team, it's even more important, I think, because if we can get that initial first down, we get some tempo going, as opposed to us now being in 2nd and 10 or worse and being back on our heels. And in our league, I know 2nd and 10 or plus and 3rd and long, it's very, very low probability. For the defense, it's the same thing. The longer they're on the field, the more they wear down, the more opportunities for them to have a bust, have a mistake, and those kind of things. And so I think it's just all about trying to get off to a good start on that particular drive. And I think that's why you see the stats and the data back it up, that teams that are really good on P and 10, they get off to a good start, and more of those drives end in positive results than negative.
Do you define success? They got a lot of this analysis out there is that staying on schedule is being 2nd and 6 or better.
Yeah, the standard kind of success rate is 4 yards on first down. If you get 4 or more yards on a P and 10, then usually that puts you ahead of the chains, because now 2nd and 6, you got a pretty good down. You can run it, you can throw it. It's not an obvious situation for a defense. 2nd and 10, the defense, they don't have to defend as much as they do on 2nd and 6. And it's the same thing, obviously, on 3rd and 2 versus 3rd and 8. So, yeah, that's correct.
With Ryan Davis, he's a guy that obviously doesn't have a whole lot of experience, but what's impressed you most that, helped him earn that starting spot?
You're right. He doesn't have a lot of experience, but, just being a second-year guy that played quarterback in high school, we've had a lot of success with guys. Coach Burns was one of those that played quarterback in high school, so typically they're used to handling the ball. They're used to having all eyes on them. They're used to having the pressure on them. And so you put them in positions on the field that usually the moment's not too big for them. They can slow things down. And he's done a good job of that in the limited time last year, and then obviously in practice. He's really quick with the ball in his hands too. That's another thing.
Rhett, Carry-On was listed as a solo first at running back on the depth chart. I know, and sometimes in years past, y'all kind of got into the season and kind of shared carries in the first few games and let somebody kind of separate themselves. How much this year will it be that kind of approach versus giving the ball to Carry-On in the first game and just seeing kind of what he
Yeah. Well, we're going to play multiple guys, and it's not going to be just Carry-On doing it by himself. I mean, I've got a lot of confidence in the way Cameron Petway is prepared now, being a running back full-time, and some of those young guys are starting to come on. But I think Carry-On earned it. I also think, he's got the most experience of the guys we got coming back, and albeit not a ton, he played in just about every game last year. He's made some plays. He's carried the ball. So from that standpoint, I think in years past we've had multiple guys that have played some. And so it wasn't just obvious this guy's got more game experience or this. Usually in the first games you want to put, at least early, the guys out there with the most experience you can. Usually after the first quarter those young guys will kind of settle in, but it's a lot to take in that first time. And so I think the experience factor weighed heavily on that too. And we'll just have to see how it goes after we get going.
How difficult is it when you have those situations where like that and others, when you have to do that against the team, the number 2 team in the game?
In terms of gain experience?
Yeah, in terms of, you got to see about who does what at this position or that position.
It's just part of it, and we typically start out with a really good opponent, and that's the hardest thing for a coach is you feel like you know your personnel, but unless you have a lot of veteran guys coming back, again, until you get in a big time game situation, you don't know. We thought we had a good handle on it last year going into game 1. Peyton Barber was the 3rd running back. He ended up being the guy that kind of carried us in that game and ended up having a 1,000-yard season because, when the bright lights came on, he was one that could stay healthy, could go downhill, could move the chains. And, so it's just that's the hardest thing, though, for a coach is just you see one thing in practice a lot of times, more times than not it'll carry over, but it's not 100%.
This is probably more of a Coach Steele question, but
Okay, I'll try to be him.
I know you said on Sunday that you'd sort of give him free rein to use whoever he wanted to simulate Deshaun Watson. Who is he using, and how tough is it to really replicate someone as talented?
He's used multiple guys. It's kind of like if we're playing a team with a great pass rusher, we can't bring Carl Lawson over and ask him to rush the passer on scout team. Now, we get it in practice all the time, which helps our guys, but you can only simulate so much. And obviously, Deshaun's a phenomenal player. And I think our guys have a lot of great respect for him and know what they're up against. But there's really no way we can simulate what he is in a practice.
Brett, it's my understanding that Jeremy's grandfather's funeral might have been today. Was he excused from practice today, or was
It wasn't today. It's in the next couple days, and I think we're going to be able to make arrangements for him to be there and not miss anything. So, yeah, everything should be good.
Red, as coaching staff, you guys obviously saw a lot of potential from Prince Tega when you guys moved him from defensive line to offensive line. Did you ever imagine that he would have advanced this quickly when he listed on the 2D?
No, that was a really big plus of fall camp. Again, we thought it was best for him, and we needed some help at tackle and from a depth perspective, and so we made that move, and it's worked out really well so far. Again, I don't think he's ready to go in and play every snap, but he's shown enough flashes that we're doing everything we can to get him ready as quick as we can. And so, and just like we talked about a minute ago, knowing the kind of kid he is and his work ethic, he's a guy that will only get better literally week to week as the season goes on.